desk, there was ambient light, and the room suddenly became a place that was like home. It wasn't a place to go be tortured in every single day. And I was also being tortured by a group of bullies. I might tell you a book that's coming out, I think, next fall is called Bully, and it's about cyberbullying among girls. Not for very small children, but I would say 5th grade on up. At any rate, so I don't think bullying is cute. I don't think there's an excuse for it, and I get intolerant of adults that say, oh, come on, kids are kids, that's what they do. They were born loving. They have learned cruelty. I think they can unlearn it. At any rate, I was sad, upset, just in such despair. And one day, Mr. Falker, his real name was Felker, by the way, not Falker. I don't know if you know this, but I could draw you and use you in a book without your permission, but I can't use your name. If I use his name, we have to consult his lawyers and the lawyers of the publisher to get his permission. So at the time, I hadn't contacted Mr. Falker. I didn't think I had to, and the lawyer said, oh, I don't think so, dear. So by changing one letter of his last name, we satisfied the law. But at any rate, he came in and he asked me one day, and he was one of the few who noticed that I had an amazing ability for art. Now, I think that's because of the division of the brain. The part of the brain that is very academic on me does not work well. So the other side goes into hyperdrive, which is the creative, artistic side. So I could draw light years ahead of my age group. I understood congruency of 3 dimension, yet I couldn't do math. Interesting, isn't it? At any rate, he asked me to stay after school one day to help him wash blackboards. Now, you young people have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. You have smart boards now, don't you? Those white things with, I guess they use markers on them. But in the old days, they were slate with white chalk, but then they had a huge technological outbreak where they were green with yellow chalk. Anybody remember that? Chalk is chalk. So it meant you had to wash the boards. So at the end of the day, Mr. Falker asked me to stay after school and help wash blackboards. Now this is on the heels of, in our country today, no male teacher may remain in a room with a female student. What have we become? So he asked me to come help him. And I brought my little shot, my little bucket, and my little sponge. He put on My Fair Lady. I'll never forget this. And I'm going like 90 on that board. And he came up behind me and he said, Patricia, I think I know something about you. You're having difficulty, aren't you? And I could feel everything come up into my throat because of all people that I wanted to love me, I wanted him to care about me. And if he knew I was dumb, he wouldn't. And I started to cry and he said, you know, I think you have something that has a name. I think there's hundreds, maybe thousands of people like you. You're not the only one. And he said, now, I can't help you. I don't know what to do. He said, but I've got a friend who can. And I remember when he came up behind me and he discovered the most terrible secret I had, I wanted to run. He put his hand in the center of my back and stopped me. To this day, when I come up against something that I don't think I can face, I can feel his hand. I can feel it as sure as it's there. And I can almost hear him whispering here saying, you can do it. So he got a friend of his, her name was Ruth Plessy, who was a reading specialist, and this was in the days when we didn't have reading specialists. She worked with me 4 nights a week, and I can't tell you exactly what brought the aha moment. We tried balance boards, colored acetates, climbing, different gymnastics. Believe it or not, physicality has something to do with one's ability to read. But I remember the day that I could look at a page and understand a sentence that writing means something. I could sound it out phonetically and then go through my Rolodex, find the word that I have heard many times in my life that I know the meaning of, and realize that's the same word and that's what it looks like. Got through that sentence, and then it was as if a pall had lifted off from my shoulders. The next sentence came even easier than the paragraph, than the entire page. And I remember running home that night after my lessons with them and going into my mother's kitchen. And my mother was a teacher. She was a classroom teacher. Think of it. She had no idea. And I got a jar of honey out of the cupboard. I went to my mother's bookshelf and I grabbed the thickest, heaviest book I could, and I poured honey on the cover, and I tasted the honey because I knew my life had changed, and that George Felker saved me, literally pulled me into the light. You think he isn't my hero? Absolutely. And from then on, I realized my teachers were people I should trust with the information. I didn't trust anybody. But I had to finally tell them, I don't know what you're talking about. And they were, in every case, I didn't have one who rejected me or made me feel ridiculous. They took every power they had to help me and changed everything for me. I could give you a cadre and list of teachers that would go on for an hour who changed my life. And I believe our teachers in our country are the last standing heroes we have. And they're being killed in this country by the No Child Left Behind mandate. This mandate forces them to teach your children how to pass tests. Vast difference than teaching this child to love the subject and to want to figure out how it's done. So teachers are paying with their blood now. They're playing with their lives are being destroyed. I think we need to rethink this. I do believe we have to have assessment, but this broad brush is just not working. It isn't working. And I think maybe the family needs to be looked at harder. That some of these kids who can't do this come from homes where they're not getting help. Some of them have wonderful parents who are doing everything. That doesn't mean a thing. And I think young people, when they're having these difficulties, believe with all of their heart that they're stupid and they're dumb. The truth of the matter is, because they just finished 37 years of study, young people in special classes are almost in every case drop-dead geniuses. They are so brilliant, we have no idea how to access most of what they know, and they know things. So when I go to schools, I love to tell these children that they're not, don't count yourself out, please. So I've written about George Felker. The book that I wrote, I was with George Felker. The year I learned to read was about 14. 15, did a year of school in Williamston, Michigan, and the book that describes that is Junkyard Wonders, because my parents were divorced, and I spent the summer with my dad and the school year with my mom, and that summer begged my father and mother, please let me go to school here in Williamston because nobody here knows I'm dumb, and I can reinvent myself, and I might even be pretty here. Maybe I can be a cheerleader. Maybe I can be somebody. Never realizing that my records would be sent from California to Michigan. So I was put then in a remedial class that the whole school called the junkyard. But the individuals that were in that class with me, that's what that book is about. And when you see what they all became, it'll restore your faith in there's nothing wrong, you guys, in being different. It's actually an asset. Eventually it becomes an asset. But then the book that's kind of following all of that is here's another teacher who put another piece in place. Every teacher I had after that put another piece of the puzzle together as to the very complex reason I don't do what you do. If all of you look at that exit sign up there, most of you are going to see the red letters. I don't. I'm reading the space that surrounds them. I'm looking at negative space. There is no discipline in our school system that teaches the appreciation of negative space except art. Now, the No Child Left Behind mandate, again, has killed art, music, and drama in most schools in our country. To me, this is a tragedy because art feeds their souls. Music is the language of God. And drama allows them the opportunity of acting out without hurting anyone. It's all going. It's gone. At any rate, Violet Chu discovered the negative space issue of my reading. And she had to go to bat for me downtown in Oakland at the downtown offices because I could read by then, but I read so slowly I could never finish a test in time. I wasn't fast enough. And they made dispensation for me. My regular teacher did. He had to go back to Ireland because his father died very suddenly. He was coming back. But in the meantime, I had a substitute who would not allow me the time, so I started failing tests again. And she wanted to have me withdrawn from the art program. And Violet Chu stood up for me, along with my family. I'm sorry to say Miss Chu has passed away. She was also my high school art teacher. And this reunion that I'm going to, one of my very good friends, I sent her the first book off press because she loved Violet Chu too. And she called me crying and said, "Oh, Patricia, there she is. You've captured her. There she is." So I'll be writing about a lot of teachers because I believe the teachers in this country are getting a raw deal. I am quite political. I won't get into it, but I just wish there was something we could do about this mandate. I think it's doing our children a disservice, it's doing you a disservice, and it certainly is doing a disservice to classroom teachers. If you think teaching is simple, let me ask you to do this. Go visit your kid's school, and I'm not being funny. Arrange with the principal for their teacher to leave the room for about 3 hours.